It's a story we think we know. It starts with an office Christmas party, something to celebrate the year. But this one ends in a terrible car crash. An employee left with injuries that would change her life forever, and a legal fight that would drag on for 2 decades. All right, let's get into this. It's an incredibly complex and really important case. So here's the big question right at the center of it all. If an employee drinks at a work party and gets hurt, who's on the hook legally? Is it the employee for making the choice to drink and then drive? Or is it the company that threw the party in the first place? As you'll see, the answer is way more complicated than you might think. To really understand the legal battle, we have to go right back to the beginning, to that day. Because the specific things that happened that evening, well, they set the stage for everything that was about to unfold. Okay, let's walk through this timeline because it's super important. The party starts at 1 in the afternoon with an open bar. And right there, that phrase, unmonitored bar, is a huge legal flag. At 6:30, the employee, Linda Hunt, leaves, but she doesn't go home. She goes with colleagues to a pub. She leaves the pub around 8 p.m. But here's the thing, the crash doesn't happen until almost 10 o'clock. This timeline is absolutely crucial because it creates these gaps, these questions that became the centerpiece of the whole legal fight. And then you've got the hard evidence. Hours after the crash, they take a blood sample, and it shows Linda Hunt's blood alcohol level was still way, way over the legal limit. This was the scientific fact that proved she was intoxicated, and it became the foundation for the entire lawsuit. So naturally, this whole thing ends up in court. Linda Hunt sued her employer, Sutton Group, and she also sued the pub. She argued they both had a duty of care to keep her safe. And at that first trial, the judge actually came to a pretty clear decision. The trial judge basically said, look, most of this, a whopping 75% of the blame is on Linda Hunt herself. The other 25%, he split that between her employer, Sutton Group, and that pub she went to after. So the employer was found partly responsible, but the court was clear that most of the fault was Hunt's. And the number they came up with for the damages? It was huge. Over $1.1 million. And you have to remember, this isn't just a number. It represents the unbelievable costs of her injuries, a lifetime of medical care, lost income, everything. So you do the math, right? That 25% they were on the hook for came out to just over $288,000. For the company, this was the real-world financial price of that party. But this was nowhere near the end of the story. But hold on, because this is where the story takes a huge turn. The employer, Sutton Group, they appealed the decision, and what the Court of Appeal found were two massive legal errors in that first trial. The first one was a real bombshell. The trial judge had gotten rid of the jury. Now, to get why this is such a big deal, you have to understand how a courtroom is supposed to work. Think of it this way. The judge is the expert on the rules of the game. That's the law. But the jury? Their job is totally different. They're the ones who watch the game, listen to everyone, and decide what actually happened. They decide the facts. It's a fundamental part of the system. And this quote from the appeal court just says it all. The trial judge basically said the legal issues were too confusing for him to explain to a jury, so he just dismissed them. And the appeal court came back and said, whoa, no way. A judge's job is to explain complex law. You can't just throw out the jury because your job is hard. By doing that, he took away the employer's right to a jury trial. Okay, so that was mistake number one. The second major error the appeal court found, well, it cuts right to the absolute heart of this whole case, the idea of causation. Was there a direct link between that office party and the car crash? Basically, for someone to be legally responsible, their action has to be a direct cause of the harm. It's like a chain of events. Did you actually start the chain reaction that led to the final disaster? The question isn't just, did the employer do something wrong? It's, did that specific wrongdoing cause this specific accident? And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Remember that timeline? She left the office party, went to a pub, and then crashed her car almost 3.5 hours later. Is that chain of events direct enough to say the company is responsible for what happened at the very end of it? You see, the appeal court found all these holes, these really tricky questions that the first judge just kind of glossed over. You had witnesses saying Linda Hunt didn't even seem drunk when she left the party or the pub. She chose to go to a second place. Then there's that huge gap, an hour and 45 minutes where nobody knows what she was doing. And the expert who did the blood alcohol calculation, he had to assume she didn't drink during those missing hours. But you can't prove that. All these gaps made that direct chain of causation look really, really blurry. So you've got these two huge fundamental errors. One was about the legal process itself, getting rid of the jury, and the other was about the evidence, the chain of causation. The Court of Appeal really only had one choice. And so the whole case got sent right back to the beginning. The appeal court said the first trial was invalid for two main reasons. The employer was wrongly denied a jury, and the judge just didn't properly wrestle with all that murky evidence about what caused the crash. A brand new trial was ordered so they could get it right from the start. And this is a super important point to get. The appeal court did not say the employer wasn't responsible, and it did not say Linda Hunt was the only one to blame. All it said was that the first trial was so flawed, it just couldn't stand. The big question of who was ultimately at fault, well, that would have to be decided another day, in a fair trial. So after all that, what are we left with? Well, this case is a huge wake-up call. It's a powerful reminder of all the hidden risks that can hide inside something as simple as a workplace tradition. It forces every single employer to ask, what is our responsibility to our people, and are we really prepared to meet it? And that question, it's just as important today as it was on that tragic night back in 1994.